This is a mandate from the American public to President Trump. This is a Trump mandate. When President Trump talks about ushering in a golden age of American success and opportunity, he's talking about unleashing energy dominance.
President Trump already looking to make good on his campaign promise to slash energy costs and boost the economy in the United States. He's vowing to restart an abandoned pipeline project here in New York. Jeff Flock has the latest for us. Hi, Jeff.
Jackie, hi to you. You know, some people think President Trump is trying to cancel the Constitution, but in reality, he's trying to bring it back. Yeah, it's the Constitution pipeline. That was supposed to run from Pennsylvania to New York. Take a look. I think we've got a picture that maybe shows you what it was going to do. Bring gas from that Marcellus Shale in northeast Pennsylvania all the way almost to Schenectady, New York, where folks need it. The National Gas Supply Association, which represents the natural gas makers, say this was just an easy thing to do, and it got blocked by the state of New York. Listen.
We need more gas transportation capacity. I mean, we have this amazing resource in the Marcellus region. We have to have pipeline capacity to take this gas from the Marcellus to consumers. And that was what the Constitution pipeline was designed to do.
President Trump says this is going to bring energy costs in the Northeast down by maybe 50 or 60%. That, if he can get New York to go along, I wouldn't bet against him. Listen.
We'll be speaking to New York, and the New York is actually the biggest beneficiary because their energy costs are very high. This will reduce them very substantially. But all of the governors want this to happen, and I think it's going to happen.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but there are indications that the governors of Pennsylvania and New York are softening their stance on natural gas and fracking. Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania says he backs fracking if it's done safely. And even Governor Hochul last week, to the chagrin of environmentalists, okayed the expansion in the capacity of a separate natural gas pipeline in New York. So maybe some hope there. Curiously enough, one big outspoken critic of the pipeline is now in the Trump administration. That would have been Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He, of course, spent most of his career as an environmental lawyer. There you see him perhaps at a protest against the pipeline. He was fighting for clean water, and that was just what he did in a past life. I suppose that this is maybe some indication that reasonable people can disagree on some issues, but eventually come to some resolution. Jackie?
Jeff Flock, thank you so much for that. You've also got President Trump not just wiping out Biden's green agenda, he's establishing America's energy dominance. And I just want to make a point on the back of what Jeff brought up about RFK Jr., because people do have an opportunity to review things and change their minds. Pipelines are actually one of the safest transport mechanisms for energy products in this country. Far more dangerous to transport them by rail or to transport them by truck. If there is an accident, you can look up the statistics and you will see that. I see David nodding over here, so I appreciate that. And also, we're just going to put up a list of, we've talked about them 100 times on this show, about what Trump has done to reverse the Biden green energy policies, the executive orders that he's putting in place to make us #1 in energy once again, to bring those prices down, which will then bring your inflation down, which people have been suffering from. But Kennedy, when I'm trying to think about Joe Biden, it's sometimes like you're trying to decode a serial killer, and it's just really difficult to get your head around what they were thinking or what they were trying to do. Every single policy he and his administration put into place literally knocked us lower and lower and lower on the energy totem pole, the economic totem pole, and also in terms of national security. So we've got a lot of catching up to do at this point. President Trump's going to do it. It's going to take some time.
Yeah, and really putting the nation at risk in terms of national security and energy, and then scolding people into this super progressive communistic green agenda. And, you know, it never really made sense to people who knew that their heating costs, that putting gas in their cars, all of that, those prices were going up, but they were told it was for their own good, and just to take the medicine. And it really didn't make sense to people, because when you really look into it, you realize how many natural resources we have concentrated in this country alone. You know, whether it's offshore drilling or some of these shale beds that we have in places like Pennsylvania. We have so much here, but the the Biden administration just wanted to castrate our energy capabilities. And that translated to higher prices for workers. And President Trump wants to deliver to a part of the Northeast that they don't have access to these pipelines to begin with. So people are forced to have propane and oil tanks. They don't have natural gas lines, which doesn't make sense to the rest of the country.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah,
because she used a wonderful phrase, for your own good.
Yes. Right.
Don't you love it when it's for your own good? This is the 10th month that I have not had natural gas. We are cooking on hot plates in our apartment in New York because Hochul so hates natural gas because for my own good, she doesn't want me to use natural gas. I'm old enough to know how to live a healthy life, and I want my natural gas. So it's going to be a big...
They all have natural gas. Kamala, AOC,
you're right,
the Bidens,
right.
they all have gas stoves.
Hochul does, but she won't let me have it because she keeps upping the regulations for buildings in New York.
At least you have an alternative to how you can cook food. Because what happened was in 2019, there were 2 utilities servicing New York City. And despite the Marcellus Shale only being a 3-hour drive from here, the 2 utilities stopped accepting new natural gas customers in 2 boroughs and throughout the suburbs because the supply lines were jammed running into the city on the coldest winter days, and they couldn't deliver additional gas to furnaces because of the politicians getting in the way. The reason that pipeline doesn't exist, if you correct me if I'm wrong, David, is because of Andy Cuomo.
Absolutely.
Andy Cuomo is the one who's
a coalition of Cuomo and Hochul and others.
Huh? The future mayor of New York City?
Oh boy. He was vehemently anti-pipeline and anti-natural gas, despite it being a delicious, clean-burning fuel.
I'll say...
Can I just ask you about natural gas? Because we've talked about yesterday how if we were exporting more natural gas, which Joe Biden didn't want to do, we'd be able to help Europe. Europe wouldn't be so reliant on Russia. There are a host of countries that are considering buying our natural gas, Taylor. So when we talk about the economic aspect of energy in this country and what we can do globally as well, it's really remarkable.
Yes, and the deals, right? Stop the export bans. I couldn't ever figure out why Biden wanted that, because you're right. When you cut off Europe from LNG, they're buying it from Russia, right? When you stop drilling our own oil, we end up buying it from Saudi Arabia and Iraq. And I'll end it with our favorite quote from Jimmy Fallon, who says, when you pee in the pool, we're all swimming in the same water. So when Brazil, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, Iraq are drilling dirty oil, even though we say, oh, we're not going to do dirty oil, unfortunately, we're all breathing the same air because we're one planet and the winds make it go around. So we've got to all get on board with this and find common sense solutions.
And by the way,
our own good.
Trump wants to turn USAID into a big promoter of fossil fuels, clean fossil fuels. Because a lot of the poorest people are the ones who suffer the most with these green policies because they don't provide enough energy for them to go from poverty to middle-class life.
Also, excellent point.